Welcome to Bold Encounters. I have with me today Lanelle Butterfield, the CEO of Color and Relationships. And we've worked together. She was a client for a while, it was a while back, and she's had such a great success that I wanted to have her come tell her story and some really profound new thoughts and research that she's done that life's pushed her towards. And so welcome, Lanelle. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to start out right away with asking you've run several companies, they've been successful, and there are people out there that are unsettled about even their leadership as a CEO or certainly a new person in career life. All of this great experience you've had, if you only had one piece of advice right off the bat, what would you tell them?
You know what? Well, when your back's to the wall, you kind of find out what you're made of. And those are good moments. I think sometimes we shy away from them, but those are actually our growing moments that help us become who we need to be. But I would say one key thing as a CEO or a business owner is always try to keep a bird's eye perspective on your business. We sometimes get too much in the day-to-day of things, and you have to step out at least once a week and look at it from a bird's eye perspective.
So when would you do that? Was it regular, or you just made sure, or how'd that look literally for you?
Yeah. Well, I think it started when we kind of had a major problem at the beginning because I was in the day to day, and I can share that story if you want. So we bought this property management company in Oklahoma, and we lived in Utah. So we'd fly out there every 6 weeks and kind of check on things. And the first 4 years, we were not making any money. We were growing, but our money was just not where it should be. So I one day kind of started to suspect that there was embezzlement going on. So we booked flights and we flew out there. And I didn't know at this stage of it where to even look, where to get started. But I knew what employee I needed to talk to her. So when we got there, the two that were embezzling were doing the circus act to not let me get with this gal on my own. And I finally said to them, out, you need to leave. And I said to her, there's embezzlement going on. And she said, I think so. And I can give you some information, but that's all I know. So we started that day to uncover what they embezzled, at least $80,000, if not more, in this growing company. And I had been too much in the day to day. I had not set us up for a bird's eye view to be able to catch that. But I remember we were in this hotel room at night after discovering it, and I was going through books after books after books. And we decided in that moment that we would pay every penny back to people that we found. So we called our accountant and we pulled our retirement. And he was like, what in the world are you doing? And we're like, we've got it to do. We literally were trying to use every penny we had to keep this business afloat. So then when it had embezzlement, we're like, our only option is to pull our retirement. So we pulled that money and we started paying owners back of every penny that we could find. And I remember that first night we were in this hotel room because we extended our stay and we were in a dumping hotel room. It was all we could afford. And it was just, it met our mood. It was dark and gloomy, and I remember just thinking, how are we going to recover from this? Like, our backs are to the wall. How are we going to recover from this? And the next morning, I remember opening the door to come out, and the most beautiful sunshiny ray came down, and I just felt like that was kind of our sign that things are going to be okay. It's going to be rough, but things are going to be okay.
Yeah. You uncovered two things that are really touching to me. One good, one bad. The bad one is I always research and get ready for these interviews. But I will admit today, since I know who you are and I know just a little bit about some of the things that I've helped you with, literally didn't think that there would be any trouble or any catastrophe or any challenge to really ask you about. And that is on me and it's my fault. And yet, I can't believe like every single person, all 100 vocations that I've interviewed for this show, every person has a catastrophe. And the second thing that is really touching to me is that I can't believe you're so honest. I just think that's so amazing. Like you're just so stand up. We don't have to do this. We could probably get around this through some bankruptcy or some other finagling. But let's just stand up even in our difficult position and let's deliver the money where it goes. And it's so touching. When I was very young, I was 12, 13 at the most. I got called by this older gentleman to go help with an older couple. And I find myself in their living room. All of a sudden, the other guy, the person we were visiting, points at me and he says, "Are you Cal Cook's son?" And I got really nervous. He seemed mad and he spoke mean. And he said, "I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. When your dad's partner embezzled, he borrowed from me." And I thought, oh no, where? I'm just 13. I can't do anything about this. And he said, "And he paid me back every penny." That's how he's decided to say it. And I guess he wanted me to remember it. And I remember it. So not many people act like you too. So I think it's so benevolent and so beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So what was the hardest thing to climb out? You take the first step to climb out. I mean, the bird's eye view is so critical because you have to work on, as they say, work on your business, not just in it. And if you're in the corners, you miss something in between. And so you're saying go up. And two questions, like what does it literally look like in a weekly or monthly basis? How would you do that? And then second, what's the first step you took to climb out of that pit besides pay everyone was hard?
Yeah. So for me, bird's eye view as a business owner is you have to be able to pull financials and know the details of that always.
Weekly, monthly, when do you do that? Weekly. Wow.
But a property management company has a lot of different flowing money on a regular basis. But so weekly, I would pull reports, but our office didn't necessarily know that I could keep track of application fees. I knew how many came in and I knew if the money was there. I knew on, management fees, what that should be, did that pull in. So I kept track of that, but I wasn't the one actually putting in any of the data. I just would pull the report and make sure that we were on track because I vowed we would not be embezzled on again. Like that was too, yeah, yeah, we couldn't afford it. Yeah, yeah. And you know what? The beauty of our pullout is that, Troy and I run a lot of businesses, well, all of them together. And I always say in marriage relationships, there's the normal challenges in life, but running businesses together is a whole new ballgame. Like it just puts it to a whole new level. But it was so beautiful for us in that moment to realize that we had each other, but our backs were to the wall and we needed to figure out what to do.
As you listen, I just want to let you know that there's more we're trying to help you with. Valuable benefits we've invested in for members of our Bold Encounters Club. We've also created a way for you to just see if these advantages help you. Go to boldencounters.tv and join, and you'll get a free month's access to experience premium guidance, tools, and the care that we've invested in this work. At boldencounters.tv, you can also give club access to someone else you think may want more meaning or need more money in their life's work. Stay with us today, and at the end, you'll hear all about these great benefits.
So we extended our stay there. We're grateful our kids kind of maneuvered some of life on their own a little bit. But we started plugging away at new policies and procedures, putting things in place that that set really our objective that we will be an honest business. We will run a high integrity business. And that played out. And you know what? Within 2.5 years, we not only had all of that recovered, but we had a lot of money come back in the bank. So our accountant now says that was the most brilliant thing you did. At the time, I was like, you guys are idiots. Why are you pulling your retirement? And now he's like, wow, it paid off for you big time. And I think that sometimes I really do feel like integrity, we're in sometimes cutthroat businesses, but integrity does get rewarded. And I think sometimes we don't realize that or we don't think it does. In the long run, it does. And it pays off big time. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too that when you're doing this, I'm just going to make a bet here that if you hadn't gone through that, you would have been somewhat, because you're a meticulous person. I know you enough to know that, but you would have watched it pretty well, but you wouldn't be as good as you were had you not gone through that. Is that for sure?
Sure. Because we started ground up and we were in a franchise system in our property management company. So we started at the bottom of 300. And through all of this process, we were in the top three by the end of it. And we had other franchises coming to us to see the reports that I pulled, to be able to see how they could look at a bird's eye view of it. So I'd set up so many reports and things that helped other people be successful in it. But yeah, it was a game changer for us and it needed to happen. And that's why I look back at it and I'm like, when your back's to the wall, you have some choices, but that is when the beauty comes, even though at the time you can't see it. Like that dark room, the doom and gloom, I could not see the sunshine at all. And the next day, I was so grateful for that sunshine because it was a little thing to me like, hold in there, you can do it. A lot of people said, why didn't you just quit? Like, why don't you close doors and just quit? That seems miserable. Yeah. But I was like, no, we felt like this was a good investment and a good thing. And now we had too much money into it to not have it succeed. Like, we needed it to succeed.
So not only are you building your own business because of the console basically that you were building with probably were some manual reports back then, probably late in the game it was more just computer screens. But you're running around the country building consoles for other people and just making them generate generational wealth because they're so good at what they're doing now. Is that close?
Well, that's very kind, and I hope to say that I was a contributor to other franchises. I know they did fly me around the country to their offices to help put things in place and to help them succeed at different things. And a lot of owners I actually coached to get out of the day to day and to have that bird's eye view because it's really hard to do. And I've realized it's based on two things, is based on fear and control. And that's why an owner or a CEO can't look at the bird's eye view because they have fear that somebody's going to make a mistake or something's going to go wrong. And then control that they can't let go of it, everything being done the way that they want it to be done or to have it be as good as they want it to be. And they have to let go of those two because mistakes are going to be in the journey of running a business. We had a program for our employees that we would set up $10,000 for the year. If they made less mistakes than $10,000, and sometimes it was more than that, then they got that money. Whatever was left over, we gave it to them for it. And so it really made them start to go, okay, we don't want to make mistakes. So we incentivize them in that. And that was really, really good. And then you have to let go that things have to be done your certain way. You hire people to do a good job and then you obviously train them. But then you have to give them some liberty in their job to own it a little bit, have some ownership in it.
Interesting. Well, let me ask you something, because another scenario comes to mind that I've seen in clients and such is that let's say that you buy the business and you've been there 30 years already, and now your role's a little different. You're owner instead of worker. And you just have this massive attention to detail because you know what you've been doing. What's your advice to someone like that?
You hire somebody who has attention to detail. You have to be willing, and that's the hard thing though, is that person still has to be willing to let go of that role. But you hire somebody that you need to replicate yourself in that position, and you give them all the skills. But these reports, high level reports, you can pull and set up on just about everything. So then you look at it report based instead of the detail in the day to day base. So you set up a report that gives you the information that you need without having to be in the day to day. So then you can weekly meet with that person and you pull up the reports and say, hey, here's some things, areas where I see that we're slacking. What can we do? So it totally changes the way that you manage, that you're in the business, but it allows it when you step out, it literally allows it to grow. When you're in it like that, you're literally suffocating growth. And that's what I realized. I'm like, we couldn't grow for a long time because after embezzlement, I was suffocating things for a little bit. And finally, we hired somebody that said, Lanelle, you've got to give me some trust. Like I can do it. And that was hard at the beginning. But once I did, and I stood up here, we went from 200 properties up to 850 properties. Like we scaled faster than most businesses scaled.
Because you're doing something the way you're doing it, and it's tight,
Yep.
and it doesn't change because it's so tight.
Right.
But as soon as you let go, delegate, look above, it starts to grow
It does.
from someone else's. And there's mistakes, but
Yeah.
there's so much variety that it allows it to grow because there's so many good things that happen that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. What do you think? I've run across another related thing. So you're in the same position, same scenario I described earlier. Let's say, just hypothetically, and some of the people, some of your underlings, as you try to give them responsibility, they actually come back at you. They're used to you being not as important, and they want you to do the detail. They want you to do that stuff. And why aren't you doing it yet? And what's going on?
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
me a shot at
And
that.
that's a hard one because you can get sucked back into that, right? It did help that we were 1,000 miles away. But when I would fly into town, what I would find is that the new office manager that we hired, they would want to bypass her and come to me on things. And I said, no, we will go through the chain of command of things. If something gets to that, you need to at least try to address it with her first before you come to me. So you have to then hold to what is your end goal in mind? And mine was to have freedom, but also to have prosperity and to also benefit other people's lives. Our employees, I wanted their lives to be benefited. But if you have that in mind, you have to then hold to it. And if you want freedom and a little more flexibility in your business or job, you have to let go of some of that. And you have to push people to the person now that they are supposed to be reporting to.
No, that's your detail now.
Yep.
For it.
Well, so I would say that it is important, though, in this journey, at least for me, to do people well. Our employees, it was important to do them well. And I wanted them to see that they were important to us. So I always told them, we hope to leave you better than we found you. So we will do things that will help your relationships. So we taught them a lot about the color in relationships to help enhance their family life because that enhances your work life. There's a lot of people who say, oh, business is business, personal is personal. They integrate all the time. I know. And unless you embrace that in your work life and you help people be the best that they can be in their relationships, then it affects your business. So that would be my biggest thing is we learn to do people really well.
Do people well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to come to some of your techniques and things that you've become really passionate about in a minute. But first, before we get there, let's talk about some of your other businesses. We won't go into as much depth, but tell us the really lows and then some of the highs and how you climbed there.
Okay. So I love real estate. I love everything real estate. I didn't, yes, it's so fun. There's so many avenues with real estate that people don't realize. Like, you can invest your money in the stock market and you have one option, up and down, right? In real estate, you have multiple options. Like, you have appreciation, you have depreciation, you have rent, you have short-term rentals, you have Airbnbs. You can sit on things and they automatically appreciate. Like, I love everything about real estate, and it's a numbers game, so I love numbers with it. But some of our first rental properties were probably not the best because I didn't understand the numbers behind it. And I was like, oh, this looks like a nice property. Like, I got emotionally connected to them.
You like the
And we didn't,
place.
right. And so you can't do that in investment properties.
Well, it's not location, location,
No,
location. Well, somewhat, but yeah,
some,
not the
but you
place.
can't be like, oh, I love it's so cute. You can't do that because that does not bring in the numbers, right? And so I just love everything about real estate. But we've had some that have been a little bit tough that haven't been as good. And then we've had some that have been great. And we had an Airbnb in Park City and we had got it up and going in 2019. Well, in 2020, Park City was one of the first to start shutting things down, and we're like, we need this to be profitable. And so after it opened back up, things opened, 2021 was still kind of slow with it. So we thought, well, maybe we ought to sell it. And we still made some good money on it. However, had we held on to that a little bit longer, we would have made a whole lot more money on it. But that's the beauty and kind of fun of real estate is there's a variety in that. But our lowest of lows was this embezzlement. I think that just about it literally just about cost us our shorts. Like, we didn't know how we were going to come back from that. But now to look at the beauty of surviving that and doing the right thing, and we sold that business. We had people come to us and offer us an amazing amount of money for that business, where now we have tons of rental properties and we do coloring relationships as kind of a fun side business, but
Yeah,
we don't really have to
you're
work anymore,
you're doing real estate mostly.
right?
Well, the other interesting thing about what you just said before the color stuff is that it's a real opportunity to go through something so challenging, like we said, and learn so much. Not only were you doing that, and not only were you helping all these other people around the country, but that repetition and you describing how you did it set you up to play a bigger game with real estate, probably. And it all stems from that catastrophe, and it's got so many colors. It's like betrayal and the people part. And I mean, you learn so much from that that even the next phase, I can just hear it had to help.
Yeah, it really did. Here's one thing I've learned over the years, though, that goes back to that is we do not like the uncomfortable emotions. Most of us don't. And so we think, and they are uncomfortable in us. But this is the gift of life. Really living is all of these emotions. I mean, if we weren't feeling those, then we're dead. Like, so to learn to embrace it differently and to actually be like, okay, this is okay. I'm in an uncomfortable place and sit in it a little bit and go, I'm just going to embrace it and see what it has to teach me. And it was so good for us in that moment. I mean, it did teach a lot of things. And I look back and we were the people who embezzled from us, we actually were very generous to them a year before with some amazing things that they could not have had access to beforehand. They actually came to our home. We did some very nice things for them. So it was a deep betrayal, yeah, afterwards. But I actually sitting in that motion and feeling that it was okay. I'm like, we're living. This is part of life. This embrace it and here we go. Like, we'll make the most out of it.
We're still spinning on this country club planet, breathing air and loving each other, and it's just as a university of real estate. in
Yeah,
the hardest sense.
yeah,
Yeah, wait,
it really is.
that's really amazing, actually.
Yeah,
I know Troy and I have a comment that also is from a friend of yours, but no whining on the yacht. Meaning that even in our worst of circumstances, like we've traveled a lot, as many people have, but you go to a place like Mexico or something where you have people that are day to day working out on these little stands with the same trinket as the next person next to them. And they are there working as hard as they possibly can to sell one or two items in the day. So even in this mist of misery, we still had a nice home. We still were covering food. We still had things going. And I was like, in the end, no whining on the yacht. Like we still were living an amazing life that other people don't have. So I think sometimes you just have to embrace it that this is living. It's a roller coaster and your back's going to be to the wall and sometimes and you're like, yeah, here we go. What are we made of? How can we make this better?
Oh, that's awesome. That is really great. So if you're on the yacht, no whining. I won't steal that thunder because that's better than what I was about to say. But I interviewed one of the top Shark Tank winners ever, and they have a policy in their company. It's essentially the same advice. It's a less clever, no whining on the yacht. And we've all worked with people, and if you get in big organizations, it's inevitable that, and I've even been the person whining on the yacht
yeah,
many times. I regret every moment, in spite of not wanting to have regrets. Those are kind of the moments you regret when you're whining on the yacht. And
yeah,
even more serious things. And it's interesting. They have a policy. Like it's a policy. Like we hire you, and you complain the first time. No, no whining on the yacht.
yeah,
We just don't do that here.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
When I interviewed people, well, I wouldn't interview them very often, but once my office manager, I trained him, one thing was, you know what? We will not have any backbiting, no gossiping, no negative talk, because that will be something that will cost your job because it becomes a canker. Because once you're looking for negative things, you'll find them, and then it just becomes nitpicky, and the office atmosphere becomes so bad. It does. The person who bought our business, he called me after like a month of owning it. And he said, Lanelle, I've got to know what you have done with your office. I have never walked into a place that has this many employees where they're all happy and content with each other. There's no contention, there's no negative talk, like, and they're thriving. They're thriving. And I was like, it's because we really tried to do people well, but we also would not, it just was not allowed to, if you had a problem, you actually had to go to the person and
And to deal with
say,
it.
right,
Yeah.
you had to say, hey, this is kind of bothering me. Can we work through this? And what that looks like. And we talked a lot about that.
Well, with the intent of getting through it, it's no longer whining. But if it's just, this is bothering me and let's not work through it, it's just whining on the
it
yacht.
is total whining on the yacht.
So you have to have the
Total whining.
intention to like succeed together in cooperation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I say this. I think I say it every episode, but I just love the finding of Noah Harari that the thing that differentiates us as human beings, unlike the other cooperative, very social beings or social organisms on the planet, is we are flexibly cooperative, and we are so ahead of everything else because of our mind and who we are and what we are. And so no whining on the yacht. Just go work it out. Yeah. Yeah. That's terrific. I want to hear how you created that office, but and let's not go dive right to the personality stuff. Tell me the other things. Like what this is an interesting vein. So tell me what you did besides try to be generous and kind. How did you create a staff that was motivated and excited and thrilled to be part of it?
yeah,
So one thing, and I don't share this very often because it is a really neat thing that I feel was heaven sent to me. But there was one time I was flying out over my birthday, and honestly, I was probably whining on the airplane because Troy is very good to me on my birthday and spoils me, spends the whole day with me, and I love it. But there was some things going on that I needed to fly out for. So on the plane out there, I'm like, all right, how can I make my birthday then special and meaningful and remember it? So when I landed, I decided I gave every employee some money and I said, through this week, I want you to give it away. I want you to find somebody who needs it. I want you to just look outside of yourself to see somebody that maybe needs that. And then on Friday, on my birthday, I'm bringing in lunch and I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what you did.
That's
And it was so powerful. And we did it year after year after that. But I will tell you that first time as these employees came in and said, I've never noticed this person before, but it was the checker at the, grocery store out. And I gave it to them and they started crying and saying, I needed this to pay my electrical bill, or it was the babysitter, or it was the McDonald's drive-through that was giving them their coffee. Like they said, it made me look at people differently and to see them for who they are. And I think that to me was one of the things we taught them is to really see people because we can treat people like objects quickly. And I remember one of the first times I was out there, we had somebody call in and they're like, our ceiling is falling, our ceiling is falling. And the employees were kind of laughing. They're like, yeah, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And I said, you guys, maybe it is fine. Like maybe there is something. Yeah. And they went out and the upstairs tub of this apartment was leaking. So their ceiling was falling. So I know, and I'm like, this is a disaster waiting to happen, right? Because they forgot that people are people. They forgot to see them for who they are. They started seeing them as objects. So credit to the employees. We did that every year until we sold it. And some of the employees started matching the money that I gave them to give a little bit more. And so, yeah.
wow, matching. That's a beautiful idea because while they probably assume you're better off than they are because you're the boss or the owner, and yet you're giving it to everyone. So why can't I match individually that because you're exponentially giving away more anyway?
Yeah.
And then you have a little lunch after to share all the stories.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's kind of like the sales group that gets together and they try to trade up. But this is not about me, mine, what I can do right now. It's
Yeah.
about giving and experiencing being better.
Yeah.
What else besides
Yeah.
the personality? Give me one more before we dive into that.
The other thing is everybody usually has a need. They have a need somewhere or a problem somewhere. So when I would fly into town, I would rotate talking with the employees, and invariably there would be a need somewhere. And we would try to be generous with them at different times. And then I would also teach them things. We had this I love her to death. She was a Black employee of ours, but she had some of the traditional things that you only lease your furniture. Like she said, I can actually buy my own furniture. Like the concept of her actually owning anything herself was foreign to her because her parents and grandparents never owned anything. They all just leased things. So I said to her, yeah, you can own things. What do you want to own? And she's like, I want to own a car. So I'm like, all right, let's outline a financial plan for you to own a car. And within 3.5 years, she bought her own car and paid cash for it. She'd saved for it and actually had something she owned. And to see that on her face, the first time that she owned something and just helping her see a vision that she can. And I think when you sit and talk with people and you know their story and you know where they have a need and then you help them in that, like, that's a powerful thing. I would always say running a business, it was nice to make money, and ultimately that's the goal. But for me, the ability to help other people in their lives, to help them have an income, to make their lives a better situation was far more important than the money that we made.
You we have a lot of research backing, and there's books that ad nauseum that show studies. They're quite quiet because it's not very exciting to other people to think about just thinking about other people instead of the money. But you focus on delivering for other people first, and then worry about the money, both in priority and chronology. And in the long run, you end up more valuable and have more money anyway. But if you reverse it and decide you're going to chase the money right this second, you actually end up with less. You might get a lot for yourself right now
Right.
and run to the next thing, but you've left kind of a wake of yuckiness behind you,
Right.
and you, in the long run, you end up with less anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and these employees would be so loyal to us as we did this for them. And they would go to the moon and back for us. Like, and here we're 1,000 miles away. Like, how powerful to have employees then that I knew were going to hold our integrity, our honesty, and run our business as we wanted it ran. And they would just go above and beyond for us.
It's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, tell me how you got interested. A lot of people talk about the color personality thing, and it got you.
Yeah.
How did it get you? We had a really big discussion. In fact, we had two different philosophies we're going to sort out, and it's going to be very, since we've talked the first time, it's very compatible. So I'm excited to talk about both a little bit.
Yeah.
But how did you get converted by this? It's hard to get converted to that for me, and you were the one that got me. So let's hear how you got converted.
So in 2004, I read the book. And at the time, I was struggling with a child of ours, trying to understand him. And I couldn't, we were hitting heads big time. And it wasn't okay for me to not have a good relationship with a child of ours. That just, but I didn't know how to do it. But I read the Kelly Code and I was so fascinated that I created a retreat of a bunch of women in our neighborhood. And the trainer at the time, I was fascinated because he could speak everybody's color. He could figure out what color they were, and then he would change his wording and speak their color. And all of a sudden, these women would open up, where at first he wouldn't get anything, so he'd change it a little bit. And then all of a sudden, they would be giving him all of this information. And I was like, that is fascinating. That's what I need to do with this child. I need to find his color, and I need to learn to speak his language to him and connect with him. So I came home from that and said to Troy, all right, I'm implementing this. I'm putting it to use. Because the color code is different than any other personality because it's based on motive, the why behind people. So I can look past now a whole lot of behavior and focus on the why of people, and it makes a big difference. But my first experience with him was it because he's a yellow. So he's about fun, meaning embrace the moment. He lives in the moment. I'm a blue red. I'm, the scout motto of blue, and I'm about intimacy relationships, but I have that red about power, meaning I'm going to win, I'm going to be right, A to B. So we raised 4 boys and we wanted to teach them to work. So we brought this big wagon load of hay in, and our youngest son's name is Bridger, and his role was to just roll the bales off the wagon. And a yellow doesn't want to work. So he was up there whining and complaining, whining on a bale of hay, whining on the yacht. And I could feel myself becoming angry with him inside. Just get the job done. I could feel myself with that. But I stopped and I was like, what's his motive? Well, yellows are kind of vain. That's a limitation of theirs. So they like their muscles and how they look. So I said, Bridger, do you know how your cousin Melon gets his muscles? He said, no. How? I said, from hauling hay. That was all I had to say. And he cleared it in no time. And it just helped me to speak his language. And this little boy, I adore him. I mean, I adore all of my boys. But to think from going from a relationship that was so challenging to me to one that was very rewarding was just powerful with me. But we implemented it in all of our businesses, and I do credit it to getting us to the top 3 franchises quickly, because when you really can speak somebody else's motive, it ends up being a win-win for both of you. And so we would train the employees in that. I also have rules with the color code, though. You can't go around and be like, well, you're so blue and so da-da-da, right? You
Yeah,
also
tell
have
me
to
about
claim
that, because
from-
that's kind of my negative feeling that I had initially. It's been a long time, but I went to Minneapolis and spent all day doing it once, and I was so allergic to it, probably because of the personality that I have. But to be labeled something was very difficult for me to think was right. And even the really well-founded psychological, or the big 6 or whatever it is, where you're open and all those other things, which we won't cover here. I don't want to mix them up. It's a little too complicated. But I just don't feel, maybe it's just me. I just don't think labeling is going to work out for me. I'm too big and too broad, and there's too much in life.
Well, and this is not about labeling because I have really strong, and this is a story for another day, but really strong issues about labeling. Like that is not okay for me.
Don't tell me that. Tell me about
Yeah.
this because that's a
But
big
with
deal.
this, absolutely, I never let somebody say, "Oh, you're so blue." Even in our family with our kids, there can't be, well, because you're red. They have to say, "You know what? Because my motive is relationships, that that kind of affects me this way." So they claim it from their own perspective in it. And then it makes it very rewarding in that regard. But I will tell you, motive never changes. You're born with that. And I now can speak people's motives a good majority of the time, and it really does make a difference with people.
Yeah.
It makes a huge
Maybe
difference.
an enormous shift in life or something, but pretty persistent, you're saying. Tell me, we're not going to teach the whole workshop right here because we don't have time, but tell me what they are, what at a high level, what they are about, and then just go in a little bit, level of detail so that we understand how you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've flown across the country teaching it to businesses because they've seen how it and we can show how it's worked in our business. So a good workshop is a day-long theme, with it. But there are do's and don'ts with each color that you think about. Like I know that you do have some blue in you. Relationships are important to you.
Intellectually, I think I want to all be that completely. I don't know that I am very well, but
Right. I
I,
think you have a little bit of that. And watching you today, I think you have red in you too. I think it's power, but power means the Spanish word is poder, meaning A to B. You want to get A to B. Your reds are the only color that can see in the future and live in the future and know that's where they want to get, and they will make it happen. It's just not in them to fail. Life can throw them things and they'll pivot, turn, but they will not fail. I see a lot of that in you.
let me ask you, away from me, are there certain types that are totally missing that? Because I run into people once in a while that are just not interested or capable of seeing the future at all.
Oh, yeah.
All the other colors cannot live in the future.
At all? None of them?
Oh,
If you go out there, it stresses them out. Every other color, I mean, you can go out there for a little bit, and some of them want to stay out there long term, but it stresses them out. They just get too wigged out. So I always say, come back present. You can bounce out there a little bit, but come back present. We have a child of every color.
You
or
do?
We do.
Wow.
So we have a red purist, and he has this 5, 10 year plan. Like he lives out there.
5-year plan guy. I love
Yes, he's got it right.
Yeah.
Then we have the yellow that's about fun, and we have a blue and white in there too. So we have them all. But our blue, if he's out in the future, he's worried. He and I keep bringing him back present because he's like, "Oh, what if I'm not making this much money?" And I'm like, "Come today. It's okay. Look where you are today." And that helps him in that. But just knowing their motive, like we had a lot of blue relationship employees, and you don't ever want to make them feel guilty because they're already beating themselves up for that. So even knowing that in a business setting, when I would know that, I would just talk to them and say, so what have you learned from that? Share me your insights with it instead of being like, I can't believe you did that, da da da.
But you're
Because
saying the blue part is like they're very concerned about the feedback from others because they want the others to feel positively. I won't say but feel positively about them.
well, yeah.
Is that, go
And
ahead.
some of their limitations. So this is where their strengths and limitation, and this is where we change. People are like, but I've changed. And I'm like, I hope you have. Because hopefully you're working on your limitations, getting rid of them, and grabbing strengths in another color, right? But if I know that I'm dealing with a blue and one of their limitations is they're worry prone or guilt prone, then I don't want to double down on the guilt on them. Like, because they already know they made a mistake. They already know they're not, didn't handle that right. So I don't want to double down on that. I want to just help them to be the best version of them.
It's so critical in a work situation, to try to integrate the two. Like we want to separate work and life, and of course there's times where you're doing things with your family that shouldn't happen at work and all that. But we operate in a world where we're supposed to contribute and supposed to be social beings, and that feedback is so critical. Just as an information source, even the subliminal part of it, the subconscious part, but it's also important to be to have a balance. Like, okay, the feedback's coming in, and I'm doing this a little wrong, and they're wanting me to head here a little more. Communications 90% of the time, everything. But there's also okay, now I'm inside of me, and I understand everything in my life in this situation for me. And I get to have a say within that feedback too. And a lot of people skip that part of it and not ask themselves as part of the group,
Right.
Well, and I teach them, you claim from your perspective too. So a white personality, that core is about peace. Conversations are hard for them. And they aren't quick thinkers, like they are a process thinker. They like to think something over time. So I would say, then you claim that. You say, you know what, can I think about that for a little bit and get back to you in a couple hours? So if they have a red boss that is like, I need facts, figures, and information right now, they can say, can you give me 2 hours and I will get that for you? So that they can claim their needs too, but also meet the needs of the other person. But I also would tell the employees, none of them would ever get in trouble for practicing red or practicing yellow. Like, because it is a work in progress. So a lot of times talking red is brief, direct, to the point, and it can come across to other colors as maybe being rude, or they're thinking they're being rude. And I was like, nobody will ever get in trouble for that, practicing that. As long as you're not in a limitation, like yelling and arguing, going in limitation. But if you're trying in the positive to be assertive and direct, you will never get in trouble for that.
Ever.
Describe the path, and let's get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so peace is white,
Uh-huh.
blue's relationship,
Yep.
and this is their why, intimacy. And then red is power, which is just A to B,
Yep.
path driven. Yeah, more path driven, and keep going. What is yellow? You mentioned yellow.
And yellow is fun, meaning they live in the moment. They embrace the moment.
It's not just like positivity, it's fun.
Right.
But they're the ones who really enjoy every minute of life. Like every core motive gives us a beautiful gift. They really do. Because yellows make us stop and smell the roses. And they see the fun in, like our yellow son, he sees the fun in every situation. He has a construction company that he's doing. He was installing cabinets and had this day-long kind of battle with the turkey the other day. And who can make that fun and enjoyable but a yellow? And he sent this little family chat describing his day with the turkey that was just beautiful for the rest of us, right? And some of us wouldn't enjoy that day with the turkey. That would have been miserable. But that's the beauty of all of it. And our red son, I love that he's like A to B. He sees where he needs to go and he gets that job done. And he's very facts, figures, and information. And our white, the piece of a white is such a breathtaking gift in a world that we are all like, they can just have us settle and feel some peace. And that's so good. And then relationships are so important. And so I love that component of blues. Yeah.
So, what else is there? Is there
That's
another?
it. There's
What isn't there a green? I thought green was creative. That's a different system?
System. Yeah. 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 And those aren't based on motive. The color code is the only one based on motive, the why behind you. The others are based on behavior or skill set. And so that's why, for me, those haven't been as easy to implement. I always tell people, you've probably taken 10 or 15 different personality tests, but what have you done with any of them? Most of the time, people haven't done anything with them. Where we've taken the color code and we show you how to implement it in your everyday life to have it work in relationships and in our businesses. We've applied it in all of our businesses, and they have succeeded because of it.
Well, it's if nothing, well, it does what you're saying. But I guess what it also starts to do is just pay attention to someone. Like just that is a huge win in business.
Yeah.
Just like what, just looking at them and just paying attention to what they might be like, you're already ahead of 90% of the people that are trying to get their job done and get the money made. Yeah.
Well, and I've taught the employees to listen because people will tell you their color. If you listen long enough, they will tell you because reds and whites will use terminology, I think, I know, because they're logically based, where blues and yellows will use, I feel, I understand. So if you listen long enough, they will tell you what color they are, and then you can interact with them differently.
Interesting. There's a little connection here between this topic and an earlier topic that you talked about doing people well. I was in a situation where I was volunteering in a big congregation for the LDS congregation that I was assigned, and they assigned me to go help. And they're young people; they're 18 to 30-year-olds, and half of all my assignment was to go help. You know, I don't have any daughters, so they said, "Why don't you go help the women, however you can, whatever they need." Which was fine. You know, I have a terrific wife. I have lots of sisters. It's not like I'm going to Mars or anything. Right. And I learned something through the first year, and it's kind of a sad thing, but it's also a really hopeful thing. I would sit down with someone and they wanted to talk to someone in, you know, kind of a priest type situation, and I would ask them how they were, and the first answer was always, "Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, things are pretty good." And I would just say a sentence or two. They would say a sentence or two, and I would ask them again. I'd say, "So, how are things really going?" Just, you know, not accusatory, but just nicely, just like I'm really interested in. That other answer was fine, but clearly just a typical answer. And almost every single time, by the time I got to 3, maybe I took 4, 90% start tearing up. Everyone has something going on. And just paying attention to someone and figuring out what's going on and what they care about and what their why is a really powerful, beautiful thing. And like I said, I don't think people pay attention to each other like a person at work. Another thing that's interesting about it is that, you know, so I did do a little preparation. I prepared for you, even though I knew you. And I looked at motive. You know, we were having a discussion because I did a big study on the 12 most powerful needs, the things we pursue in life, all of us, you know, wellness, you know, security. Let me see if I can name them: wellness, security, freedom, connection, nurturing, and significance. And then you get to discovery, which is basically learning. But then mastering is a separate one, like really knowing completely and being a master of something, mastering something. And then finance. And then you get to excitement, which is just the mental, you know, as psychologists would say, arousal. So you think and anticipate, and things can make you feel positive just thinking. These are all positive. These are none of the negative ones. We'll skip those. But then the final one is pleasure, and it's, you know, taste, smell, you know, all your senses, your external senses instead of the internal, like the previous one. And then you've got to rest. And so we were talking about the difference between this color system and that system. These are things that are very predictable. You fast for 2 days, I know what you're going to do. Yep. Hey, that's doing and pursuit, not the motive, not the why. Right. And so I went home and I looked it up, and I found like the most inspiring thing that I'd forgotten about the word motive. That you kept saying the word motive. Yeah. And the original etymology, you know, the word, the root, originally came into English, and it meant not just like we think of, like yippee and go get 'em. Right. It's a reason to act. Yeah. How simple and profound is that? Like, forget about the emotion and the you know, motivation we all assume the definition of, which is just like this thing gets you excited and then it just fades and it's worthless. Yeah. you have a reason, which doesn't go away unless it's fulfilled,
Yeah.
to act.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful word to describe motive, I think.
And it's so true in that when you look at that, because I'm blue first with red second.
So
So my reason to act is relationships. I care
You're a
about
blue too.
people. Yes.
Yeah.
And so that is why our business, the
You're
people,
definitely red too.
oh yeah.
So
I
maybe we're the
I'm hand
same.
in hand,
We're
blue
half
and
and
red.
half.
Matter of fact, I even sometimes will be like, I'm going red now. Here we go, because I have that in me. But that's why push comes to shove. Like when I know what my motive is in that situation, then I'm trying to stay as healthy in that as I possibly can. But that's why when you say my reason to act, my why, first and foremost is relationships. But my second is power. And so I know that in me, and then I have to work within that. And yes, it's a big, and I love that you grabbed that because that is the difference. When you know somebody's why, their motive, and it doesn't change, then you can understand that with each other and you can be more mindful of each other and just see, like you said, see each other.
Well, I tell you, you're way more blue than I am because listening to your stories, I just am sitting here appalled. I can hear you actually speaking like that. People don't talk like that at work.
yeah.
Even the caring people, like it's such a beautiful way in the words you chose to describe interacting with those other people, even the ones that betrayed you. And I think you have to say betray if you're inviting them home and they're stealing
Yeah.
every cent they can. I think it's got to
Yeah.
be betrayal.
Yeah.
But to worry about them and to say it the way you did, you're very blue for sure. But you're very red too.
Yeah. That's one of my
Yeah, they're hand in hand. I used to hate my red part because I didn't always go to it in strength, and I still don't. I'm still in a process of learning. But when I would go for red, I was going about power and I was going to win, but I would damage relationships in that process. So then I'd spend the next couple of days trying to recover the relationship because I damaged it. So I really try now to go, okay, I'm going to be red and I need to try to save this relationship. I need to try to be as positive as I can so that it doesn't affect me and my blue of feeling guilty that maybe I didn't handle something as well as I wanted. And it is a lifelong pursuit for me. I'm not where I want to be. I'm always striving for that, but it's been a great foundation for us in our marriage with our kids, and it just is has been a really good tool.
Super helpful tool. I have two more questions about it before we go into our premium action plan where we talk about one baby step that's the most potent to get this into your life. First is, you said it really made a difference in your businesses and things. Tell me some of the ways that you implemented it in your teams or even with the coworkers or your partner, your husband. Tell us the applying this in the business and the work life,
Yeah.
career sense.
So
Well, in our business, it was a lot of practice, and I'll tell you a few stories there. There was one when I was out there in Oklahoma, and a tenant came in hot. She was mad, and she was red as could be, and she didn't want to pay her rent until the pool was going to be fixed. Well, nowhere in her lease does it say the pool has to be fixed for her to pay her rent. She has to pay her rent. So she came in and I happened to be there and I was kind of walking up the stairs, but I stopped on the stairs because I'm like, all right, I've trained our receptionist. Let's see how she does. One thing I've taught is with the red, if you're sitting down, try to maneuver, like don't just bolt stand up, but try to maneuver where you can get up on the same equal playing field because reds would rather be respected than loved. So you have to kind of combat that a little bit by meet respect. But she in her chair kind of slid back and she's like, ma'am, I don't know about your lead. She was kind of fumbling, trying to just give this lady information. Well, when they're hot, they don't want information. They just want their yes, they want their answer. So then our office manager came around the corner and she kind of stood back from her and she's like, ma'am, you can leave until you can calm down. And the lady's like, I want my lease. Well, your lease, she goes into trying to, um, reason with her. Well, red when they're hot, that is not a time to reason with them. So I finally was like, I've had enough. I have enough red in me. These two cute employees didn't, but they were trying, which I give them credit for. But I came around and I stood on the counter within, I mean, I was probably 18 inches, but I stood squared up with her and I said, ma'am, you may leave now. And she's like, no, I said, you may leave now. And she, one more time, "No, no, no," and then she said, and who are you? I said, I'm the owner, and you may leave now. And she turned and left. And they were like, my receptionist gave me a high five. She's like, I need to try to do that. I'm like, you're getting there. But I didn't give her, like, I matched her where she was at. And it wasn't a time where she was going to listen to anything. She needed to go and have some cool off time. And then we could follow up with an email or a phone call then. But she was too hot to have anything transpire.
She was a
So.
bright red.
Right.
You were showing her a very close version of your blue. That was excellent.
Yeah.
You didn't yell. You just very close version of your blue, pushed by the red behind it.
Well, and I, Troy and I, because he's opposite of me. He's a yellow white, and I'm a blue red. So we cover all the colors. And for a long time, Troy would say, I don't think like you do. And I'd be like, why don't you think like I do? Like the way I think makes sense. You should think like me, right? But really, all the breeds, all the colors, their motive, they do think differently. And so, probably about 10 years ago, we were in Hawaii and we were on an excursion and we were going through these water canals. And they're like, don't link up with each other because your knuckles and stuff will get hurt. So just stay single file until the last 2 miles. So the last 2 miles, they're like, all right, everybody can link up now and you can enjoy this, nice little ride. And I'm thinking the blue in me, I'm like, oh, connection, right? He's going to link up with me and oh, this is going to be so romantic. We're going to have this nice little time. And he's over playing in the waterfalls and he's entertaining everybody and everybody's laughing. So it's fueling him more to entertain them. And my first start in my blue is, why doesn't he want to be with me? I start getting in this emotional spiral of, God, he doesn't want to connect with me. Why doesn't he want to connect with me? And I stopped right then and I was like, well, no, he's a yellow. He's just enjoying the moment. He's having fun in the moment. Don't take it personal, like, come on. So I talked myself off that cliff, which was good.
And you're red too, right? Like
Right.
you were feeling romantic and you're feeling red.
Yeah.
So, good luck with
So
that.
you see those
And he's
two together.
frolicking in the waterfall.
Exactly. He's frolicking, entertaining everybody. And I'm like, everybody else is linked up. I'm like, can't you see this?
Yeah.
But he was having his moment as a yellow. So I got out and I got dry in my towel and he came out in his towel and he grabbed me in his towel and he goes, wasn't that fun? And I was like, that was it. He was in his yellow moment. And I said to him, did you hear that they said we could link up? And he goes, oh no, I didn't even hear that. I was too busy in the waterfalls. But you can see how that could have, I mean, it could have ruined the rest of that day for us. It could have been, right? But in that moment, I was like, I was so grateful to go. His motive right now is he's enjoying the moment. He is living in the moment. And it ended up being this beautiful thing between us when it could have been something not so good. So, yeah.
Okay, those are too good. One more story about implementing it with people in work, and then we'll go in and we'll accomplish something really important.
Okay.
Action plan stuff.
Okay. So another work thing, I want to kind of bring back the work-home balance.
Okay.
Because we had an assistant office manager who was going through a very ugly divorce. So it was hard for her to come to work and be present. Her mind was with a lot of that, right? And blues, because they get worry prone and they spiral and they can't get their mind off of emotional things, it kind of consumes them. You have to start feeding them with just a little bit of logic. But where we go wrong is we tell them logic. We're like, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be worrying about, he's a jerk or whatever we want to tell them to try to help them. And it doesn't help. It only makes it worse, right? So the beauty of that is to say, is there anything you can do about that now? Have their brain start grabbing onto logic things. And she was like, no. So I was there once when she was going through this. And I was saying, is there anything right now in the moment that you can do to make your day or this situation better? And she's like, no. Um, how do you feel about, uh, this task that you have to do today? Oh yeah, that would be good. You know, what's an outcome that would be good for you? Like I started feeding her with logic things, and she's like, you know what? I do need to take care of myself. I need to have this job. This job is important to me. So she was able to snap out of that and be present at work. Otherwise, that would have consumed her mind the rest of the day to not give her some logic in that. Another example of that, I'll give you one more.
You threw dots in her mind so that she could connect them, kind of, rather than drawing everything out. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because too
That's
often
terrific.
we sit and draw it out for
Yeah,
them, and their
right. Now I want to
brain,
draw myself.
right,
Thanks.
their brain just has to connect to logic. You'll get the logic far before they will, but help their brain get there. That's the beauty of it. Another example of that quick one is after Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped here in Utah, our son, who's a blue personality, kept having reoccurring dreams that he was being kidnapped out of his bedroom window, and his bedroom is like 20 feet off the air. So somebody had to put a ladder up in his dream and carried him by ladder at gunpoint down this ladder and out. And it became so debilitating that he could not function. There were a couple of times he would stay home from school because he could not get out of this dream. So I pull out my book. All right, what am I going to do here? So the next time he had a dream, I started to say to him, and I was like, Caden, how much do you weigh? I knew he weighed 100 pounds, but I needed him to say 100 pounds. And I said, how easy would it be for somebody to carry a 100-pound kid down a ladder with a gun and a bag? And he's like, oh, that wouldn't be easy. And I said, and how we are right across from you, how likely is it that you're not going to scream or make some commotion as you're being taken? And he's like, yeah, I would make noise. Well, your dad's a light sleeper. How likely is it that he's going to hear something? And all of a sudden, within an hour, he was out of that and he never had that dream again. He never did that again. So I think that's another beauty of it is to, if you understand that their relationship and their emotional base, and you can help feed them some logic in those moments, you can really help them.
That's beautiful. Okay, so let's switch horses for a minute. We're gonna say thank you to the people that have been listening on the free version. Is there anything else that you would like to tell them, or even where to find you, or whatever you want? What else would you like to tell them before we switch to our premium action?
You can reach us. I'm Lanelle at colorinrelationships.com. That's my email. Troy is Troy at colorinrelationships.com. We have been doing a lot of presentations lately for businesses, and we've actually started a whole real estate course for a CE credit that we've been going around and doing. We're doing a couples course right now that's super fun. We have some couples coming because I kind of cater it to whoever is in front of, and we have a lot of information that way. So if people are interested in their organization, having this training or organizing a group for us to come and do it, we'd love to do it.
I love the spirit of how you do it too. I've spoken in groups all over, and I often have someone coming and talking about colors, and I have a similar conversation I had with you, and they're doing it for money and for work and to get somewhere with it. And I love that you're just like, look, I don't need this. I'm just here to help. And it feels very much like that. And what a place to be coming from. That's the way you want to get this.
Oh, yeah.
You got me.
Really is.
You got me.
Yeah.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's switch and start our premium action plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to think of all these great things we've talked about in this system and even your other ideas and philosophies. And I want you to pick one baby step. They're going to hear another one of these in a week. So we've got to kind of bracket this to 2 to 4 hours total and maybe less. And something tangible, concrete, a real step of behavior, of doing what would you prescribe with your best guess, these, couple thousand people that are trying to make their career better?
Yeah.
I would say,
For just a second, let's talk about you. What roadblocks hold you back? Everyone faces them, but you don't have to stay stuck. Bold Encounters Premium unlocks fewer ads, invitations to private peer events, deeper solutions, and this week's action plan. So thrive in your career. Find fulfillment within the next 7 days. Join or gift premium. Visit boldencounters.tv today and start leading yours and others' life's work.